I am continuing my sharing, my talking about my experience. I'm just so grateful to be here a year later, um, just celebrating life with a new perspective. Just really wrapping my mind around all the things that I teach and that I help with and that I communicate. As I talked about before, 90% of what those I work with have been through, I've been through. And that might sound ridiculous or unbelievable, but certainly it's true. And so now when I say to people who are walking through their healing journey, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, on all planes, on all levels, being here now says that more than ever do I understand that my thoughts create my reality. And watching how, as I mentioned previously, the rage, that moment of rage, I remember during that period of time having a conversation with a person. And she was going through a number of things herself. And this was just a person I know, but she still reached to me for guidance and my expertise in a number of areas. And there was something she was going through, and she was coming to me, but kind of putting it on me for me to fix it for her. And I had just had enough of that, fixing it for everybody else. And nobody, I'm one of those people that make it right for everybody in that space, in any space. And very few people check on me, right? Very few people check to see how I'm doing. Because I'm told I make struggle look easy. Imagine that. So as I was talking to her about what was going on, and she was putting that energy on me, I realized, well, I didn't realize at the time, but I was so angry, because I'm like, here I am, I've just been diagnosed, and you bringing me all of this other stuff, and you haven't even paused to really say, how are you? And to really mean, Karen, how are you? Right? And I went off. And I'm not a person in my latter years to go off. Now, I am pretty direct, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about things. But I went off to the point where I was releasing at such an intense level. I felt something pop above my navel. And then I had pain there, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what that is, but I'm just thinking it was a cramp or something like that. Whoo! Lo and behold, when I was going in for additional scanning to prepare for the surgery, they identified that I had a hernia. I never have had a hernia in my entire life, and I'm approaching 60. So I was like, whoa. But I knew it was that moment when I was having that conversation with her and the rage that I was expressing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it was crazy. It was just crazy to me, because I'm thinking, you got a problem. You really have an anger issue. And this was a big deal for me. One, obviously, because I created the hernia, but also because when I was 19, because of family life and experiences, trauma, drama, I remember at 19 hearing, dropped in this ear, a voice just as clear as you and me, that said, you'll be dead by 21 if you don't deal with your anger. So I was like, whoa, because at that point in my life, I had had a lot of car accidents and various things that had happened to me, more car accidents in that space, and that's what was on my mind. I was never the culprit in that. I wasn't hitting people. People kept hitting me. I was a very fast and aggressive driver. And so I knew that that message meant that I was going to probably die in a car accident by 21 if I didn't address my anger. So from that point on, I began really working on that, really working on literally counting to 10 every time something would happen to me. And I would, or my rage would come, I would count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, all the way up to 10. And then I would ask myself, do you still feel the same way about this situation? And I found that I still didn't like the situation, but what I wanted to do about it was entirely different once I counted to 10 and calmed myself down. So now here I am 30 years later, and I'm thinking, let me do the math, right? So 1930, okay. So 30 years later, and that kind of rage is coming up. So I'm thinking to myself, where did you fail? Because this is a person, me, who from that point understood I need Zen music. I need to do my walking. I need to do my breath work. I need to go in the woods, go in nature, spend time. My whole world, once I mastered this calm, was doing that. So how in the world had I gotten to the point where the rage was so intense that through a conversation with someone, I created a hernia in my body? Boy, oh boy, that was not good. Right? So what I did, obviously, in that process, and for the sake of this conversation today, this moment, this session, was I yet again identified. What am I doing? What am I thinking? What is causing these things in my life that would cause me to create a hernia? And now I've manifested cancer cells. Whew. So I then began to prepare myself for the surgery. At that point saying, I don't want to die like that. I don't want to leave the planet like that. I don't want this. I don't choose that. I choose something different. And as I was processing that, the fear that was gripping me based on what I thought the outcome would be, I had to immediately arrest that because I could not let that take hold, because that would take me out. So I knew that, and I just sat still. I sat still with it. Because remember, as I communicated before, we're talking about from July 3rd to August 27th, right? So these are the things that I needed to work on in order to get my body right, so that would not be the outcome. I was determined that when I went in for surgery, that they were not going to find not one cell.